In this video, I'm going to show you how to make these super cute shearling ballet flat slippers. These were so easy to make, and I wasn't sure if they were going to be amazing or turn out a little bit weird, but I think they turned out really, really well. I didn't line them because I used one piece of shearling that was this beautiful leather on the outside, and then of course the shearling on the inside. So they're really nice and soft. And yeah, I did add this little tab at the back, which gives them a little bit of structure in holding their shape, and just a little bit of friction in the back to make sure they stay on your feet. And I'm just so happy with how quickly they came together. So I'm gonna dive straight in and show you how I made them. The main idea behind this pair is that they're gonna be really soft. I'm not gonna have any stiffeners at all. I'm using this really beautiful shearling leather, which has a really nice leather finish on the back. Usually shearlings like this will have a suede finish on the back, but this one's got like a really soft buttery leather finish, which I love. So the idea behind this pair is that it's gonna be the brown leather on the outside, the shearling on the inside, so there's no lining, it'll just be one raw piece, and essentially it's just gonna be a ballet pump. So if you wanted this to be super quick, you could just grab the ICANMAKESHOES ballerina flat pattern off our website, but I'm just making a pattern from scratch. So I've taped up one of my lasts, and I've drawn on my top line, which is just a little bit higher than your average ballerina pump. So first thing I'm gonna do is just cut the tape off the last so that I can make the pattern. I always like to put a little notch on the inside there to indicate the inside and the outside of the shoe. Okay, now this is probably going to be one of the easiest patterns I've ever done because it only needs a lasting allowance, which goes around the bottom edge or the feather edge, and it needs a small seam allowance at the back. I like to do 2 centimeters around the bottom for the lasting allowance. I just feel like that gives me plenty of excess to play with. And then about 5 millimeters or half a centimeter for the seam allowance at the back. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut that out, and then we can start cutting our shearling. Okay, and there we have the world's easiest shoe pattern. I'm gonna go ahead now and start tracing that on here. So because I'm actually drawing on the right side, I need to make sure that I'm definitely cutting my pen line off because we don't wanna see any pen on here. And the other thing to consider is just at the edges of any piece of leather skin, but especially with shearling, it's not the best right at the edge. So I just wanna make sure that I'm placing the piece in a way that's not wasting the leather, but also so that I'm not, you know, getting the toe right in the middle of that bit there, which isn't the nicest. And don't forget to flip the pattern for left and right feet. That is the most important thing to remember at this stage. And then I'll go ahead and cut them out. Okay, once you've got the pieces cut out, you can give them a good old shake to get rid of any excess fur. Okay, now that I've got my pieces cut out, I'm gonna jump on the sewing machine and stitch the backs together. Okay, so I stitched the backs together, and I decided to use this really soft lambskin leather to do like a little tab on the back, which kind of covers up the seam and also causes a little bit of friction in the heel, which I think will help it stay on the foot nicely. But yeah, I just chose a nice color that kind of matches the upper that I'm working with. And I'm really happy with them. I think they look great. So we can just go ahead and move on to the next step, which is lasting them around the insoles. So I've got some pre-padded, pre-cut insoles here. But if you were making these on your own, you would use a Texon board for the base and then just glue a piece of foam on top. The foam is optional, but these are slippers, so I'm gonna make them as comfy as I can. Okay, so I just attached my insoles to the bottoms. I'm now gonna put these over the top like that. I'm gonna apply a bit of glue to the base there and the underside here, and then just stick it down underneath. And that's gonna be it really. So let's see how we go. I may need to trim some of the fur from the inside around the edge, just so that it sticks a bit nicer. I love this thing.
The Dyson?
Yeah, so good. All right, let's get gluing. Okay, so I've got those lasted now and they're looking really good. So what I'm going to do next is trim away some of this excess, and I'm going to glue in some cork into the base there just to create a nice flat surface for my sole to go on. I've already done that one, so let's do it. I like to take a little bit of sandpaper and just sort of sand the edges to make sure that it's nice and flat as well. These are looking so good. I'm actually really pleased with how they're looking, but they were unbelievably easy to get to this stage. So I have got some of my beige resin soling here, which I've cut out into a sole shape. To get this shape, I actually just traced the insole because it was already the perfect shape. And I'm just gonna simply glue that onto the bottom like that. So all I'm going to do to attach these is coat those with glue, coat the base with glue, and stick that down. And then we'll see if we want to add a heel tip to it or not. See how it looks. Okay, so I got these all glued up and I'm going to go ahead and stick the soles on. So I always go with the one that I glued first so that it's had longer to dry, and give it a little bend. And then I usually start around the toe and then just slowly work my way back. And then before I stick the back down, I just check that it's lining up to the right place, which it is. And then you can just really stick down the edges. Okay, that has gone on so beautifully. I am really happy with how they're looking. We are almost done. So if I take the lasts out now, you can see on the inside that I've got my foam there. So I've cut 2 little pieces of the shielding at the exact same size as I did the insoles. And all I want to do next is glue them on the inside there like that, so that the whole inside of the slipper is just super soft and lovely. So I'm going to apply a little bit of glue to the underside of my insole sock and the inside of my slipper, and then stick it in like that. All right, so this is actually a little trickier than it looks, but I always like to start right at the heel again. And making sure you're placing it down at the right angle is also really important for this bit. And then you just kind of want to roll it in. Well, that one actually went in perfectly. The first one was a little trickier than that, so if it takes you a few goes, that's absolutely normal. Okay, they look so good. I am so happy with how they've turned out. I wasn't sure whether they were going to be a bit weird or amazing, and I think the verdict is they're amazing. I did decide at the end not to put a heel tip on just because they're slippers, and I thought it's kind of nice to just keep a really simple sole on there. But of course, if you wanted to, you could add a heel tip on there just to give it a little bit of extra lift off the ground. But yeah, so happy with them. There's only one thing left to do, and that is to try them on.